Hello everyone, welcome to my garage. I'm new to this whole deal, so I have a lot of friends that are kind of doing the whole YouTube thing, and I follow a lot of great people online like Vice Grip Garage, Hoovy's Garage, DeBoss Garage, a lot of great individuals out there that put out videos. I'm not looking to make this big time, but I kind of wanted to document some of the stuff that I do on a daily basis. So we'll just kind of go through what we got going on. And this is all taken on an iPhone. I'm not fancy enough for that other stuff. So I'm just a regular guy, working out of a 2-car garage, hand tools, no fancy stuff. Here we got a 69 Pontiac Grand Prix. It was cut up into a drag car back in sometime in the early 90s. Picked this up out of Kentucky. Currently have a Pontiac 400 that I built about 2 years ago going in this thing. It's bored 30 over. It's got some good internal parts. The heads have been shaved, about 11 1/4 to 1 compression, Holley carburetor, Edelbrock single plane intake. Got a turbo 400, so we'll see what this thing does. Should be about 400-ish horsepower off the jump. Gonna be making some videos on this one eventually. This one's kind of on the back burner because we're focusing on the old Foxbody. 86 505 speed. Very period correct build. We're talking trick flow heads, trick flow intake, Vortec V1 supercharger, MSD. It's got the original T5 with the center force clutch in it. It's a very basic, very early 90s build. But the big thing we're hitting on right now is the car just needs help. It's been sitting for a long time. I don't have any video of the teardown to this point, but what we're looking at doing here is kind of freshening up the top end of the motor. So this car sat for a long time. The AC compressor was shot. The intake manifold gaskets are leaking. I do have some new injectors to put in here. So we're just going to kind of give this car a health check. We're going to do a few upgrades along the way, and that's going to help us just make this car more reliable for the summertime and a good fun car. Should be 12-second street car, got the Mickey Thompson radials on the back. It's just an overall very solid car. So this is what we're focusing on right now. In the future, I'll bring more Grand Prix stuff, but for right now, we're just going to focus on the Mustang. So we're going to cut to some stuff with that. So as you can see right now, we got the upper intake off, exposing the lower intake manifold. We have the AC compressor removed, where I'm going to be pulling out the AC lines. It didn't work anyways, needed to be charged. We'll cap off the receiver dryer so that way eventually maybe put some air conditioning on this thing. That's something way down the road. Right now we're just trying to get it going. Have had a problem with throwing serpentine belts off this thing and shredding them. So we're going to be addressing that at the same time we got everything apart. And as you can see, I've removed the distributor. Couple tips for that. When you have your distributor sitting in, you pull the cap off, you pull the wires out, but you leave the distributor sitting down in here. Kind of hard to see, but I made a mark here on this AC bracket that will not be moving. That's where the rotor was pointing at when I pulled the distributor cap off. Now, in addition to that mark, if we go over here and look at our MSD distributor, I also made a V mark here. That corresponds with a spot that I have put on the car as well. So the rotor is going to line up with the V on the bracket, and this lines up with another mark that I have made. So that way we don't have to retime our motor. The motor will not be spun over, so that way the timing should be set to where it was when it was running when I pulled it in the garage. Just kind of a little tip, so that way you're not messing with timing, because timing is just one of those things that if you get it out of whack, it's going to take you a while to get it back to where it should be. All right, I'm going to start spinning some wrenches. I'm going to try to set the phone up so you guys can kind of see what I'm doing. Again, I apologize. This is not a very high budget kind of thing. I'm new to this, so just going to kind of go through everything. I want to give a big shout out, because I'm working on this Foxbody, to a YouTube channel called Foxcast Media. They do a lot, and I mean a lot, of Foxbody stuff. They do New Edge, they do SN 197, they haven't really dabbled in S550. They're really known for the 5.0 Coyote swaps in the Foxbody platform, but they also do a lot of cool builds like this, kind of period correct, heads cam intake tunes, a lot of good content on that channel. So shout out to those guys. They're awesome. If you're Mustang people taking a look at this video, check out their stuff. They have a lot of stuff that they can offer you as far as tech tips and just generally building a pretty badass little Fox street car. So go ahead and check them out. All right, let's get to wrenching. All right, the time-lapse video that I just did, I'll sit down and explain it for you. Since we're pulling the intake manifold off with this big old supercharger bracket here, you can't really get the thermostat housing out, but it has to be loose. So when we pull the intake up, the thermostat and everything's just gonna sit there, and then we can put a new thermostat in it and all that. Also disconnecting the coolant lines that run through the intake. This also on the 5.0s, this runs back to your heater core. So contemplating if I want to replace the heater core right now, because that is a common problem with these things. And if anyone's ever done one on one of these 5.0s, you'll know you have to take the whole damn dash apart to get to it. Foxcast does a really good breakdown of how to do the heater cores on these cars. So right now, the point I'm at is I think we are about ready to pull all the intake manifold bolts out. So if you look down on here, we got these 1/2-inch bolts. Should be 6 per side on the small block Ford. And pull those, and then intake should pop up, and then we've got a clear view of our leaking intake manifold gaskets, and we can see how the push rods are looking, lifters, lifter valley, all that. So put you on another time lapse, and then we will get right back to it. All right, intake manifold is out. As you can see, this is common on these Fords. Right here, this coolant passage in the front. These gaskets, if you don't get them seated correctly, they like tear and break. Also, be careful when you're taking the intake manifold off. You don't want to get any crap down in the motor. You don't want to drop any bolts or anything, because then you'll be pulling apart a lot more than you bargained for at that point. So they were all 1/2-inch bolts. Take the coolant lines off, and I mean, you saw me fighting a little bit with this right here. So what I think I'm gonna do for install is we're gonna get these lines off, and we're gonna put this housing on the intake manifold before we put it back in. But you can see we've got some leakage here around the front, and we're just gonna reseal up these intake manifold ports. We're gonna clean everything real good, and we're gonna get this thing running a heck of a lot better than it was. So everything's looking pretty clean in there, no sludge, which I beat on this car pretty hard. So you can see it's got a roller motor. It's a roller motor, so it's got the hydraulic roller lifters with the dog bones in here, and it's got the girdle to support those. So just your basic 5.0 with aluminum heads on it. It's got an E303 camshaft, runs real good. I'm going to be posting some other videos from my archives. I do have a video of this car running down the track when it had dry rotted tires on it. And I think it ran like a 13.5, 13.6. So not bad. 60 foot was junk. But yeah, at this point, we're just going to start cleaning stuff up and putting everything back together with the parts we got coming in here pretty soon. All right, I want to thank you for tuning in. Again, not a professional by any means, but if you guys like what you saw, go ahead and like the video or leave me a comment. I really want to do this so it shows everyday people working in their own garages. You don't have to be a high dollar mechanic. You can go down to Harbor Freight and get you a tool set. I've been wrenching on cars for pretty much half of my life now, so I did used to do it as a full-time job. So I do have some mechanical know-how, but I want to be able to give everyone out there on YouTube good information depending on what they're working on. If it's a Foxbody, this will apply to a Ford F-150 with a 5.0 in it, older one. Any 302, 289, even 351 Windsor-based motor. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned for a little bit of Pontiac goodness. I'm a Pontiac guy to the core, so this will be a whole build-up. We're going to do lots of cool stuff with this. So support the smaller channels on YouTube for all your car stuff. There's some good content out there. I got a buddy I was stationed with at Scott Air Force Base. They have a YouTube channel called Doghouse Garage. Go ahead and check them out. A lot of LS stuff for you LS guys. Not a huge fan of LS, but I'm more old school. But thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next video.